Okay. So welcome everyone to another Celo All Core Dev call. This is ACD7. So in this call, we're going to go over a few items. Um, the most important thing that happened the past week has been the Celo Baklava Donut Hardcore. So we're going to cover like a retrospective on how the Baklava Hardcore went. For Donut. And then after that, we're going to cover CIP10, given it's one of the discussion topics and stuff like that. So yeah, let's kick it off. So the first item, like discussed, is the Baklava Donut Hard Fork retrospect. And what are the expectations for mainnet? So, or you want to kick it off?
Sure, thanks. So yeah, I think about 2.5 weeks ago, we released the first beta of version 1.3, which set the activation block number for Donut for Baklava. And we discovered a few bugs that have since been fixed. They're not really relating to the hard fork, just other changes in 1.3. Then hard fork activation happened on Tuesday and went smoothly. Some of the validators were not upgraded or did not have the hard fork enabled. So there were kind of two cases. One of them is some really just were not upgraded. So that was expected. The other one is some validators were running without the Baklava flag, which actually is what is used to determine the Genesis config into the hard fork activation. And so those few also stopped syncing when the hard fork happens. The fix for that was just to have the flag. And this is not something that is needed on mainnet. So for mainnet, you don't need any special flag. It'll just pick up by itself. Then after activation, we ran our test suite that kind of just does sanity checks on all the CIPs from the hard fork to check that they're functioning. And we finished that today. So there's really nothing blocking us. And the plan is to release 1.3.0 stable on Monday. And it'll set the activation for Donut to be on Alpha Horus on May 4th and mainnet on May 19th. So we would have essentially a month for everybody to upgrade.
Is the May 4th in relation to May the 4th? Like Star Wars Day?
No, actually, maybe it's the May. No, I think it's May the 5th. I think I'm wrong about that. Good call. Anyway, I have a draft PR setting the block numbers. I'll convert it to a PR today, and when that's merged, we'll be ready.
All right, awesome. So Monday would be on Monday. It's going to be the 19th on Monday, this Monday. So that will give like for mainnet activation exactly 1 month, right? Which I think is sufficient given how we saw the performance of the validator, given that we had the hotfix and like the Baklava coordination, even though it's not the same quorum set as mainnet, it's still like I think it should run smoothly and stuff. So
yeah, for mainnet, definitely we need more time. And the main reason is that it's not just validators that need to upgrade, but basically all full node operators.
Right.
But yeah, I think 1 month is reasonable.
Yeah, we would have the full node operators. The most important full node operators that we would have are the exchanges. I think I like to tackle when it comes to hard fork exchanges by volume. So what are the most important exchanges, and then you can go down that list until they can verbally confirm they've upgraded. And then any dApps that are running full node would have to upgrade and stuff. But most importantly, the validator, then exchanging, then you go to dApps and stuff. So that'll be fun work for me. I'll start off the whole process on Monday, and yeah, that'll be taken care of from there. But so far,
and just a couple of other things to note. So, in part of 1.3.0, there are some breaking changes to the ETH call behavior. They're very edge cases. So basically, kind of things that we inherited from upstream that were not really logical, and that in upstream they fixed, and so we included the fix as well. One of them is if you use ETH call with a non-zero gas price, but you don't have enough funds to pay the gas, then it'll return an error. Whereas before there was a hack in place that basically like faked your account balance being very high. Second one is if you do ETH call, then you don't specify the from address, then it'll default to the 0 address rather than the node's address. This was also something from upstream. Essentially, somebody noticed that if you made a call to get nodes or to parity nodes, you could get like different results because parity was using the 0 address and get was using the node address. So they changed that to be consistent, and so did we. The other thing to call out, anyway, this is all mentioned in the 1.30 release notes. If you want, you can see them in the 1.30 beta release notes. If you can wait a few days, it'll be in the stable release notes when we release on Monday. The other thing to call out is that Donut includes the change to make the lookback window governable. So the value will be on a smart contract. And the smart contract has already been deployed, but it hasn't had a value initialized for the lookback window. The blockchain client is able to handle that. It just falls back to the normal value of 12. But it does result in some unseemly lines in the logs. So we're planning to have a governance proposal to initialize it on mainnet before donut activation.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's super important given that we have 30 days timeline. I think York and Nam are on the call. Are you guys aware that we need to do a governance proposal prior to the hard fork activation date?
Yeah, I think I saw Or's comments about this. For some reason, I thought that we had already gone through with the look back window proposal, but it shouldn't be a problem to get it in before then.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah, I
so
mean, so just to clarify, there are two things. So a lot of people get them confused in the head. Like one of them was the grace window proposal, and the other one is the look back window proposal. So the grace window proposal has already been approved, and it's 10 minutes. But also the look back window needs to be set on the contract, or should be set on the contract. It's not a hard requirement.
Understood. Okay, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem at all.
Awesome. All right, then I'll coordinate with York then for when we can submit that governance proposal, and everyone within the core community will be know ahead of time. If you're subscribed to the Celo Signal mailing list, you'll be able to know about this ahead of time. And yeah, we'll time it right before the hard fork, so it'll be activated and stuff. Cool. Is there any more questions about Baklava? If you just recently joined the call, mainnet activation will happen on May 19th for the Donut hard fork. And on Alpha Horrors, it'll be before that on May 4th. The release will start on Monday. We'll cut out a release for Celo blockchain. Yeah, I think that kind of covers sort of the update. Is there anybody has any questions about this before we move on? Okay, no questions so far about the Donut hard fork. I think it's good that we start moving on to CIP10. Click on CIP10. Okay, for CIP10, Alex, you want to kick it off?
Yeah. So I don't think there's too much to say here, but just for some context, CIP10 was proposed early last year to generalize the signing keys we support in the accounts abstraction in Celo. We want it to be, as it says here, like friendly to smart contract signers, allow signing keys for basically anything to be authorized. Throughout some more conversation, it kind of came up that it'd be nice to also support multiple keys per role. And then we would also relax the constraint that a key can only be assigned to one role. So we get, as a byproduct of that, we can now have multiple roles per key. So yeah, I just wrapped up the implementation work today and a pull request, and I haven't gone and updated the CIP with like a conversation from nearly a year. This was proposed back in May. And there were some like edge cases to handle the existing signers, like the vote, validator, and attestation signers. But yeah, happy to discuss with anyone who wants to.
Okay. Just to like summarize then, you're gonna be submitting an implementation detail about what the implementation would look like and stuff, and then that would I guess will provide the implementation part of this. The other thing is I wanted to ask is how would this be activated? It will be via the core contract release cycle, right? If it were to pass, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's totally backwards compatible. So all future writes will be writing to this new mapping. We're adding to the accounts.sol smart contract. And the special cased ones like the validator vote and attestation signing keys will keep writing to the old storage locations as well. Ideally totally backwards compatible, and people just get access to this new cool feature.
Okay, that's cool. Mike, did you have any comments you wanted to make about the CIP time?
Yeah. Hey, Alex, I just dropped a comment on this about a half an hour before the meeting. So some of it is really covered in there, but I think I got some answers from what you just mentioned. One of the questions I had was about the authorized signers for any given individual role. And it was difficult to tell if it was that multiple signers came via, say, an array of having multiple signers authorized for a role at a time, or whether that came from having a smart contract or multi-sig be an authorized signer. And so it sounds like it's both. It sounds like there are multiple signers that can be authorized for a given role. And of those signers, you can have either smart contracts or EOA addresses. Did I get that right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Implementation makes no distinction between those two types of accounts.
Awesome. And then I just had one other question, and that was really about authorization across multiple roles. As I understand it, the implementation allows for the authorization for multiple roles on a given account, but it does not allow for the authorization of roles across different accounts.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point to flag. Yeah, so if we think about like the root signing, if we think about the root account, a signer can only live, a signer can only be assigned to, a root account. It can't be across multiple.
Right.
Which I think, yeah, no, go ahead.
I think that going back to some of the conversation in GitHub, that a lot of the core considerations around that are how slashing is handled by the protocol. And that when it goes to do a slashing based on a validator, it finds that signer and then it slashes the account that's associated with that. And so if we get into this realm where we start to have signers authorized across various ones, it becomes very difficult to attribute that slashing back to a given account. And it really kind of significantly grows the scope of the CIP beyond what it's currently doing. The only, I think that like there could be some benefits if, not necessarily for validation signers, but like for voting or perhaps for other roles where there might be conveniences from having the same signer be used for different accounts. But I completely understand the difficulties that this could cause. And I wouldn't want to like significantly expand the scope just for this. I think that in general, everything that CIP 10 is already doing is a really great improvement.
Yeah, I think that was almost like, it's just a correctness issue. I think I even read that comment today, right? Was the concern that you wouldn't want someone else to like, authenticate that key that you've previously slashed?
I'm not sure I follow.
Yeah, I maybe it makes sense to follow up async about that. I would need to read the comment again, but yeah, I did take into account that consideration.
Great. Well, excited to hear that the implementation work sounds like it's done based on what's up there, and really excited to see this one make its way to mainnet.
Yeah. I just want to add really quickly. I think just echoing Alex's point that we wouldn't want to break the correctness of all of the existing signer to account usages across the core contracts.
Alex, remind me, do we have account to signer calls anywhere? And would we break that if we have multiple signers per role? I don't think so, right? But I don't actually know 100%.
Account to signer. No, right? You can only do, so now we have like this idea of a dedicated, like default signers. And those ones you can index them from the account, but usually you're interested in the signer to account direction.
Cool, yeah, sounds good.
All right, cool. So I guess one question I had is, I think even without the implementation yet, is this as a draft, Alex? Do you feel like this like the specification part of it, is it ready at least for like final review stage, or do you want more time to just like finalize the draft before we can submit it for final review? And the reason I asked is because if we submit it to final review, then we're signaling that if it passes the final review, then after that it's just a matter of like whenever the CAPS team at C Lab would look to implement it part of the next core contract release cycle.
Yeah, I'll take some time today to get this out of the draft status and let you know, because we were hoping to get it into the next audit, which I think is in May.
Okay. Okay, so your target date was like in May to put it part of the next contract release cycle, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want, maybe by like we'll give it a few days, and then what I can do, I'll give it a few days until you can make more PRs, whatever what you're working on, just to add it to the draft, and then we can take it after that from draft status to final call, which is the review period that we talked about, and we can put it for 2 weeks. That way, everyone can get a chance to look at the specification one last time for a 2 week period, and if there's no further comments, no um, security concerns or no other kind of concerns, we can accept that specification, and then it's just a matter of like deploying it as part of the core contract release.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, cool. So do I guess since we're on a call, does anyone have any concern about the spec as it is, or do we have, I guess, a rough consensus on at least moving it to the final review stage? Maybe not now, but maybe in a few days to give Alex to submit the implementation. Okay, I'm guessing silence so far means everyone's okay with this. If not, please speak up. All right, cool. So I'll move it in a few days. I'll give Alex a chance to submit, like, just finalize it. And then in the last call, everyone is invited to review it for 2 week period. And then by the end of the 2 week period, it's accepted as a standard. And then we can move on and scope out how to activate it within the core contract. Cool. All right. So I think that's about it. I know it's a short call, but I did warn you all it's going to be a short call at the beginning of the call. So I'm sorry if there's no more any kind of topic to discuss for now. But yeah, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then I'm going to stop recording. All right. So thank you everyone for another awesome all core dev call. It was a short one, but we're definitely going to have more later.